The one non-negotiable defining characteristic of successful people is their mindset. The norm sees risks. Outperformers see rewards. The norm sees obstacles. Outperformers see opportunities. You can have anything you want in life if you believe it and choose to see it. Discover the cutting-edge research, superior strategies, and helpful hacks to fuel your passion and focus your productivity. This is about you performing at your individual personal best day in and day out with energy to burn and stamina to sustain. Buckle up, you are listening to the Outperform the Norm podcast, hosted by Scott Welle. It's go time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Outperform the Norm podcast. This is Scott Welle. Hope you're having an awesome day. Thanks for being here. And what I want to talk to you about today is fueling your body for performance. And specifically what I mean by that is I'm not just talking about athletic performance. I'm talking about fueling your body for everyday, daily performance. So you can have energy and stamina. And ultimately, these are the same basic strategies that I give all of my clients to help them look better, feel better, and perform better. Okay, so ultimately where I want to start this is, to call it what it is, the United States is an ingredient-driven society, and it's at the expense of our overall health. And I sometimes say that we lose the forest for the trees, and we really do. We're focused on a bunch of individual trees, we're focused on a bunch of individual ingredients, yet we're the unhealthiest country on the planet. And figure that one out. And I don't mean to start this out on a harsh negative note, but it's just the truth. And who I'm speaking to here is if you have known food allergies or food sensitivities, you're not who I'm talking to. You obviously have to avoid, certain things. I'm talking about gluten and wheat and dairy and soy and all these different things. Every single day there's something new popping up that, we shouldn't have this or we shouldn't have that. And I challenge you, you can go and most people know kale is kind of the green superfood, right? Really good for you. You can go and you can Google, is kale bad for you? And you'll come up with a bunch of hits on Google talking all about kale and excess vitamin K and how it can cause hypothyroidism and cause some of these different, negative consequences. And what I'm just basically saying is you can find dirt on anything if you try hard enough. And ultimately, when we sit here and we pick apart these different things and we say, well, I can't have that because it has sugar, or I can't have this because it has high fructose corn syrup, well, we're really focusing on one single tree. And it's not what we do some of the time, it's what we do most of the time that matters. And when you sit there and you look at one single tree, or you're fixated on that and say, I can't have this and I can't have that, ultimately, you're just not focused on the big picture. And it's just not a good overall strategy because ultimately with that restriction, it usually creates negativity, it usually causes resentment, and eventually when the willpower breaks, it leads you in the wrong direction. So ultimately that's just where I want to start out is what I'm going to talk to you about are basic strategies so you can look and feel and perform your best in regards to what you're taking in for food. And it's going to be focused on the forest. It's not going to be focused on a couple of trees. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there right off the bat. And ultimately, where I want to go next is, to look at food. Food is fuel for your body, and food is fuel for your performance. The same way that you put gas in your car, you put fuel in your body. Okay, and when you do that, you can expect that given types of foods are not only going to give you a given level of cognitive functioning, but they're going to give you a given level of energy and stamina, and they're going to give you a given level of performance, okay? You put something into your body, you can expect you're going to get a given result out of it. That's really how it works. Now, the difference and kind of the kicker is, sometimes I do car analogies and I relate your body to a car, but the kicker of it is obviously a car cannot run on an empty tank of gas, and your body to a point can run on an empty tank of gas. So if you're somebody that's prone to maybe you have a very high stress job, maybe you're skipping meals. Ultimately, your body is going to find a way to produce energy. But if you understand exactly what's going on biochemically inside of your body as this happens, usually your cortisol levels are spiked, which triggers the release of sugar into your bloodstream. And ultimately, your body is more or less catabolizing your lean muscle tissue as well to produce energy, which is not ultimately what you want to happen. Most people would rather that it be targeting their stored body fat instead of taking away the lean tissue that ultimately we want, and it is something that we lose as we age. Okay, so it's critically important to know that, when we take in food, it's food's job is to be fuel, and food's job is to give us energy, regardless of what we're trying to do and regardless of what we're trying to accomplish. That's what food does for us. And it ultimately is going to determine, what you put in your mouth will determine your long-term health, your weight, and your body composition. It's just the truth. I'm all about exercise. Obviously, I do marathons and triathlons and things like that, but the truth of the matter is you can exercise until you're blue in the face, but if you're shoving the wrong stuff down your throat, you're not going to look and feel the way that you want to. I don't care how much you're exercising. It's just the way that it goes. And again, I'm talking about the most of the time. I'm not talking about some of the time. Okay, so that's just an important thing to get out there right off the bat. And, I just want to talk to you about some tips that you can use just as an overall fueling strategy. Again, looking at the forest, not necessarily looking at the trees, and things that you can use going forward. So basic principles of fueling your body for performance. First, if it comes in a bag or a box, you got to be really careful on it. Okay. Usually a bag or a box means it's probably pretty heavily processed, probably higher in sodium. And ultimately that's going to cause you to retain water. It's just simply not going to be as good for you. Okay. If you want to know some of the things that are actually worse for you, it's a lot of preservatives and a lot of things that are used to put food and process food into bags and boxes. So as a basic strategy, I would simply tell you if something comes in a bag or a box, try not to have it. It's just a great initial strategy. And then right alongside with that is look for foods with less ingredients. Okay, if you flip something over and it's got 100 ingredients on the back side, you may need to look at that. You may need to say, what exactly am I putting into my body here? The less ingredients and the more fresh something is, the better. And then I would tell you from there is to go on and to just try and look at avoiding whites as much as possible. And specifically what I say when I mean whites is I mean white sugar, white flour, white rice, and then white pasta, basically. Meaning just search for things that are more whole grain and search for things that are just a little bit heartier for you, because ultimately when you're taking in those white things, those white sugars, whether they're in the form of donuts, pastries, muffins, things like that, white flour is included in almost everything. And then ultimately just choose a wild rice or a brown rice over, white rice, and the same type of thing with pasta. It's just going to be a slower releasing carbohydrate into your system, and it's going to be so much better for you. The other two things that I would point out on this, I would say always try to drink more water. Okay, I would honestly say 90 to 95% of the people I work with, I start them out with drinking more water. And usually I try and build people up to drinking half of their body weight in ounces of water each day. So let's just say I weigh 200 pounds. You would want to be taking in roughly 100 ounces of water each day. Now, if that sounds like an extraordinarily high number for what you're currently taking in, that's okay. Work your way up to it. But you'll feel so much better if you're taking in this water. And again, same type of thing. It helps with not only nutrient transport and detoxification, but it's not just an energy thing. It's also a cognitive functioning thing. And more water will just really facilitate that. And then just try to have more variety in your diet. We are creatures of habit, creatures of routine. And when we find something that we like, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, we'll pretty much stick to it. But, the purpose of and the reason why, if I were to give supplement recommendations, I truly believe everybody out there should be on a fish oil and a multivitamin. The company I recommend to every single person is Advocare, but there are some other good ones out there on the market, but everyone should be on these to fill in the gaps. But part of the reason that people need to be on these is simply because nobody has enough variety in their diet. And I feel confident enough saying that unless you have a personal chef that is literally cooking you multiple meals every single day with all colors of the rainbow, you're probably deficient in some basic vital nutrients, whether we're talking about micronutrients or macronutrients. It's just the way that it is. And then the last thing that I want to say is I just want to touch on breakfast quickly, because I'm a big believer in starting your day on a good note, kicking it off on the right foot, and it all starts with breakfast. Okay? Most important part of breakfast is to take in enough protein. Okay? You want to take in some protein to breakfast. If you're having the all-carb breakfast, whether it's a bagel or bread, toast, donut, whatever it might be, you want to make sure that you include some protein with that. Okay, it's going to stabilize your insulin levels. It's going to give you, breakfast stands for breaking a fast. So basically taking in that protein is going to stabilize those insulin levels, but it's going to give you the protein that your body has been without for the entire time that it was sleeping. It's going to slow down the digestive rate, actually, which is good. I'm not talking about metabolism. I'm talking about digestive rate. And ultimately, that's where I would start. And I would try and take in roughly 20 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up. And if you want to know what good choices are as far as what I would recommend for breakfast for protein sources, look at cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, maybe a meal replacement shake, or some egg whites. Any of those would be great choices, but that will get your day kick-started, get it off on the right foot. And usually, if you can take that in first thing in the morning for breakfast and have a big glass of water along with that, again, to facilitate the nutrient transport and the detoxification, that's going to start the day on a really, really solid note. And then it's kind of hard to go back from there. Once you do something right starting out, then you just want to continue on. You just want to keep it for the rest of the day. So what you do in the first 30 minutes of waking up, absolutely critical. So that is all I have for you today. Hope you got something out of it. Go out there, fuel your body for performance. I guarantee you'll look better, feel better, but more than anything, you'll certainly perform better, both in terms of energy and also overall stamina. Have a great rest of the day. Scott Welle, Outperform the Norm podcast, wishing you the best of health, happiness, and always high performance. Hey everyone, it's Scott. Did you like this episode? Be sure to subscribe to the next one and tell a friend about it. If you want free books, videos, and world-class training on motivation and peak performance, please visit me at scottwelle.com and enter your name and email for my newsletter list. Until then, go out there, make it happen, enjoy the day, and I wish you the best of health, happiness, and always high performance.